Welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler here with Johnny. Johnny, what's going on?
Tyler, once upon a time, I would have told you about basketball, but I feel like we've already done that once before. So I'm going to dispense with that, and I'm just going to allude to the fact that maybe we've been recording for nearly 3 hours.
Yeah, Johnny, I just stopped to get a banana. You know, bananas are really amazing, Johnny. I mean, they're cheap, they're nutritious, they're calorie dense. They come in their own wrapping, they're easy to harvest, they grow in huge bunches. Now, wait a minute, Johnny. So we're creating content here, and while I'm talking about bananas, I think it might be better to stop myself and perhaps edit out a conversation that people don't want to hear before we release it, because I think maybe the mark of a great creator, which we are not, we're trying, is knowing when they create something that's not worth releasing.
Yeah, to just know, like, sometimes you just have to know when enough is enough and to pull the plug. And I think we recognize that in ourselves sometimes. And let's pat ourselves on the back and not linger too long on stuff not worth discussing.
Why don't we linger on it even longer? No, we tried recording an episode and we quit like an hour and a half into it. It was pretty amazing. Longest scrapped intro ever. We're doing something completely different now.
Yeah, it was so bad we changed tact.
Yeah, we considered redoing the episode, and we're just like, this episode, we can't even focus on it. It was an episode about the nature of video game console libraries. This was an idea. This is like a philosophical idea that sounded so good in our heads, and it was so good and so deep, we didn't even know how to have a conversation about it.
We were really sniffing our own asses on this one. We felt good about it. It was just...
but like, It was a conversation about like the idea of a Sega 32X game is a Sega Genesis game, but the default way of thinking as a collector is to segment it out into Sega Genesis, Sega 32X, Sega CD, when really they're all the same thing. And what does it matter, really, what kind of hardware a game plays on when the games themselves are what matter?
Right. And should we be looking at games in a different way? Should we be looking at maybe just the individual games and the consoles it happens to appear on, rather than just trying to fold ourselves into this idea that you have to collect sets, or games are built within these individual platforms? Like, here's all the NES games, here's all the Super Nintendo games, and adhering strictly to that, especially as collecting is changing and people are they've completely gone away from set collecting, but they're starting to identify games, as series and keys and things like that. We were doing a lot of that, but we went off the rails.
I think the best takeaway from our episode, let's just recap the episode in 2 minutes here, but the best takeaway was our best example of kind of a new way of thinking is the black box set. Whereas, yes, we've had subsets within video game console libraries before, but since 2019, the black box NES set has become so much of its own thing beyond the NES set. And yes, I realize, 20 years ago, people cared about and collected the black box set. But there's this whole new generation of collectors who kind of see the black box set as its own goal entirely and don't even consider collecting every NES game, because collecting every NES game would be for crazy people. And as set collecting becomes less popular for different reasons, I'm interested and want to see that kind of thinking more in the game collecting space. And ultimately, as we were rambling about it, we didn't really know how it was going to turn out, and we didn't have a good episode about it.
Yeah, I mean, and what we were trying to get to a little bit was just like, yes, you can see that. What is a GameCube? If you've got a Game Boy player on, is that the full set? Is a Game Boy Advanced really just the ultimate version of the Game Boy? So is the whole library for the Game Boy Advance, in fact, the Game Boy Color, and the Advance games? Have we just delineated this piece of hardware that obviously plays all of these games for no reason, but that we like to compartmentalize things? So that's the theoretical shit we were trying to get to, and just, man, it did. If you want to know what that wreck sounds like, That's going to be our After Dark. We're going to publish it. And here's our plug for the Patreon. You can join us at patreon.com/collectorsquest for as little as $2. That gets you in the Discord. But if you want to hear our train wreck of an episode, you're going to need to be on the $4 tier. So that's it. All right. But this episode, Tyler, we bailed out on a high theoretical episode and went to what?
I don't know. It sounds like we went to 3 a.m. my time. We are starting recording at 3 a.m. No, we're going to talk about a console near and dear to both of our hearts, maybe, Johnny. The Sega Saturn, and the first 10 games we would collect for it, which I think is perhaps a relevant one of these episodes, because I think most people listening to us probably have Nintendo games, like NES games. I think there's probably a segment of people, maybe younger than us, or maybe people who've just passed it by, that just don't have any Sega Saturn games, because how relevant is the Sega Saturn in 2023, really?
Not really that much.
Did you grow up with a Sega Saturn, Johnny? I know you probably didn't have one, but were you around Sega Saturn?
So what? Weirdly, I picked up the Sega Saturn at the end of its life. So I got it while it was still alive. I was in the military. So I'm 19 years old when I got it. I went out, it was like right after boot camp, my first trip, second trip, I think, into San Antonio, and there was a mall, and I went into an EB and I saw Shining Force 3, didn't even know it existed. Spent my military paycheck right then and there for a Saturn, for a memory card, and Shining Force 3. So I did actually grow up, and that made me actually kind of fall in love with the Saturn. And then I started looking for more games for the Saturn after that. So it was at the very end of its life cycle. I was picking stuff up for it.
Yeah, my rich friend, I say this like, I know he's not listening to the show. I'm not, we've grown apart. It'd be really funny to know like what the people you knew in like elementary school or middle school called you when they referred back to you. But, my rich friend Brian is the one who had a Sega Saturn when I was growing up. And he's also actually one of the main places I played NES, because I didn't have an NES growing up. But I mostly remember sitting down and playing Bug with him. Like, I have really deep memories of playing a shitload of Bug, which, if you don't know, is a really janky 3D platform game. It's not like free roaming 3D. It's like you're locked on north, south, east, west axes, but the game is 3D. It is not a good game. But that's my main memory. And then the son of the comic store owner brought a Sega Saturn in with Nights into Dreams one day, and I thought it looked like the coolest thing ever. That just made a real big impression on me. But then also, when I started collecting games, Sega Saturn was really, really cool to collect when I was collecting, because it was like this less common, more expensive, a little bit more niche area of game collecting, and I just got really into the Sega Saturn. I was into the NES and Sega Saturn, because I just thought, like, man, NES is the default, and Sega Saturn is like what the cool guy collectors have, so I want to just go deep into Sega Saturn stuff. And
yeah,
deep on my, cool Burger King salary of $7 an hour, as deep as I could go at the time. But I think a part of that, I collected Sega Saturn like garbage when I started. Because I was buying, Blackfire and Highway 2000 and just all these games that don't matter. Daytona matters, but it's not a good version. I would buy all the cheapest stuff, which everyone will tell you is the wrong way to collect Saturn. But I'd always look at everyone's Saturn collections. Like, I'd go on the forums and, people have, Dragon Force and Shining Force 3 and Magic Knight Rare. They'd be like, man, it'd be so cool to have those games one day. Meanwhile, if I stopped just like spending my money, just like tossing it away on like the $10, $20 garbage, I could have just saved up for one of those games and thought, like, how cool am I? I have Magic Knight Rare or whatever. But yeah, I bought the garbage. So I guess the takeaway that I'm going to give this episode is just don't buy the garbage, because on Saturn, there's a bunch of it.
Is there a bunch of garbage? There's a lot of, so yeah, I think there's like a trashy bottom that you should definitely avoid. And then, so this is going to be, well, like, how we did the Genesis episode of this, and like, especially in our, not necessarily in our top 10, but in our next 10, the like 10 through 20, how we were pretty widely spread out, because I think the middle people have a bunch of opinions on. It was like more nostalgia picks. I think the Saturn is more like that, where it's not like the middle, but like the upper middle. There's going to be a lot of different picks. So I expect our list to look a little bit different, and I expect our listeners' lists to look a lot different than ours, especially given our proclivities. Like types of games we don't like really see value in. As much, like fighters maybe aren't something we're always going hard at, or race games, you like them more than I do, but I don't like to touch them. And Saturn has like it's got like a pretty wide range of the types of games that were on the Saturn. So Saturn's an interesting console, especially when you start to think about imports. And I think with, we can just spoil within this episode. I think if you're like really collecting Saturn, at some point you have to, if you're not just collecting it to be like, oh, cool, I got the North American stuff, and you like want the cool games, I think you have to like really sit down and look at the stuff that's in Japan and some of the PAL games if you like really want to be a Saturn collector.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's multiple ways of doing it. You could get just the stuff you want to play. That's a normal kind of, I mean, it won't be a normal price, but you'll end up with like probably 10 games. You could get the Japanese stuff because it's cheaper, or you can go into the Japanese import stuff, and then all of a sudden there's also a bunch of like $500 shooters in Japan that is like the cool guy stuff to have. I don't even know, like I'm thinking of a game like Hyperduel. It's a cool guy shooter. It is a $500 game, looks super cool. I mean, like the graphics, I mean. Is it like, I don't see people flexing games like that as much anymore. Maybe I'm just in the wrong communities. Maybe if it went over to like the Shmups forum, like people still like have their crazy shoot 'em up collection and they all think they're the coolest for having Hyperduel. I mean, you are.
Maybe.
To be clear, if you own a Hyperduel, which I do not, you are the coolest. But that doesn't seem like the popular thing to be like flexing, I guess, right now.
No, and I feel the same. Like, so if I was going to go the other way, like into where I live, like in horror games, right? Something I want to show around Halloween. I don't see a lot of people flexing Deep Fear, especially the PAL version, which is notoriously expensive and hard to get. So I also like within shmups, like I don't see a lot of people like showing off Batsugun anymore, or even Radiant Silvergun. So it's Saturn collecting is not as cool as it used to be, and I think that's because people. It says it's going to be weird to say, but I think people collect more for the shelf now, but also more for the perceived retail value than they used to.
Ooh, I didn't even consider that the kind of hottest Saturn imports, it's all the the most playable in English stuff is all the best expensive stuff. So you got your Bubble Symphony, your Elevator Action Returns, like these upgraded arcade ports that you don't need any language to play. But if people aren't playing their games, like, what does it matter that I'm buying playable imports? That's interesting. I never considered that, Johnny. But fuck that. We collect for the shelf now. So give me that Mario. Also, the other reason is that it says Sega instead of Nintendo on the top of the console.
That's a big problem. Could you imagine if it was the Nintendo Saturn? Man, these games would be $1 million.
Oh, let me tell you. There's actually this console called the Nintendo Wii U, and I heard it's going to be the next Sega Saturn, and all the games are just going to be thousands of dollars.
Oh, maybe. Hey, let me tell you about a console. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called the Nintendo Switch, which literally is just the world's largest import console. So maybe if you love a game and you write a developer, they'll just push it on the Switch. I don't know.
Right?
Which, I mean, that's kind of awesome in a way that there are so many imports. You're just like, man, if you want all the Parodius games, you can definitely just go get them on the Switch now, which is crazy.
I mean, you could. It doesn't even have to be an import. You can just say any game, and it's probably just on the Switch for some reason. Johnny, can I play Assassin's Creed 1 on the Switch? I would not be surprised if I could.
I think there's an Assassin's Creed collection coming.
Okay. Great. No, what I can't play? I can't play Zelda Breath of the Wild at a decent frame rate, or whatever the new one is, Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. Yes, there's multiple Assassin's Creed collections for the Switch. As you both know, or as you know, I'm not a fan of Assassin's Creed. Neither are you, especially the first one's boring. And made me just step away from the whole series. So I don't keep track of that one.
I think it's an interesting point, an interesting touchstone in open world game history. I think the parkour is cool, and that is the only cool thing about that game.
Yeah, look, I think it definitely has influence. Like, yeah, I think it has influence. I think it's important. I just didn't enjoy it. That's different.
Crackdown was way better, right, Johnny?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
my Crackdown fan is out there.
We definitely didn't buy Crackdown just for the demo that came with it. Definitely not. Don't worry about it.
I bought Crackdown because of Crackdown Agent. What demo came with Crackdown? Was it like a Halo game?
Yeah, it was Halo.
Okay.
Right. I'm pretty sure it was the Halo demo, right? Was it Halo 3?
It was probably Halo 3, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, so we're gonna do a top 10 games that you could collect if you were starting your collection.
I'm gonna say first 10 games, not top 10.
First
games.
10. Yeah, yes, not top 10. That is incorrect. The first 10 games. This is not a best of list in any stretch of the imagination. This is just like, man, I want my shelf to look pretty cool. Maybe have some good games, have a variety. Again, Tyler and I always approach these episodes differently. We have different tastes. We have different reasons why we collect things and would put them on a shelf and start a collection. As similar as we are, the games that are our preference, we do have some variety there. So no consensus on the list. And do you want to get into it, Tyler? Are you ready? Or you got
Johnny,
more to say?
Let's get into it with... I don't know what to call the most iconic Saturn game. It's probably Knights, but I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start with Panzer Dragoon, because there are 3 Panzer Dragoon games on Saturn. When I think of Sega Saturn, this is the first game that I think of. So the weird thing with Sega Saturn is that it's a Sega console, and it doesn't really have a Sonic game. And yes, it has fake Sonic compilation games. It has Sonic R and all that. But I think Panzer Dragoon kind of stands more as the Sega Saturn game if I were to pick one.
Really? You think Panzer Dragoon is the game?
Kind of, yeah. I know there's also
more than Knights,
who's a lot more mascot-y and has like a bundled controller and stuff. But I don't know, like there's 3 Panzer Dragoon games and there's 1.5 Knights games. So how much of an impact did Knights really have on the Saturn compared to Panzer Dragoon? And then also Panzer Dragoon snowballs into Panzer Dragoon Saga, which so many people consider like this mythical collectible, which I feel like elevates the Panzer Dragoon brand even more. And Panzer Dragoon's a cool game. I don't know.
I'm not saying I don't know. Knights to me feels like it's it. You know, I think more people know Knights, and it's just more representative of the console itself. But that's fine. You pick Panzer Dragoon. What do we find Panzer Dragoon?
All right, for? I'll give you 2 more reasons that I'm gonna start. I mean, Knights is on my list too, obviously, but I'm starting with Panzer Dragoon. One, it's a rail shooter. It has the word shooter in it, which automatically makes it cooler, even though for whatever reason rail shooters aren't considered as cool as 2D shooters. Second reason, it has the word Dragoon in it, which just automatically makes your game cool. Actually, the name Panzer Dragoon, pretty cool name for a video game. No? Okay. Well, we're starting there, Johnny. It's $80.
I mean, when I hear the word Dragoon, I instantly think of Final Fantasy.
Well, don't you think those games
Final
are cool?
Fantasy 2. I do very much. But that's what I think of first.
Who put the extra O in Dragon first? I mean, it has to be a Japanese thing, but where did it come from? Because we got like Legend of Dragoon, we got Final Fantasy, we got this. What's going on?
I have never looked into the etymology of that word.
All right.
Do you want to do it real quick?
I'm doing it live, Johnny. No, because I'm just gonna find like a dragoon is a member of several cavalry regiments in the British Army.
All right.
I don't maybe Panzer Dragoon is like a pun on having a British word and a German word. I don't know. Johnny, you have this on your list too, right? Do you not? You don't have Panzer Dragoon on your list?
I don't.
Wow. Okay, maybe I'm greatly overestimating how iconic Panzer Dragoon is.
I mean, I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but if I'm starting my collection, and I'm going to put a Panzer Dragoon game in there, there's only one I'm reaching for.
Panzer Dragoon Zwei. Okay, I understand.
Yep, that one. The one that no one is reaching for. No, I'm reaching for.
I realize this is like a source code being lost thing. Panzer Dragoon is on the fucking Switch. Panzer Dragoon Saga is not.
I know, and look, when Limited Run eventually prints this game, as they did Panzer Dragoon, people are going to go nuts and love it, right?
Print what game?
Panzer Dragoon Saga.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I always think about like the source code being lost so it can't be ported, but Limited Run Games doesn't give a shit about that. They're just going to copy the CDR and sell that. All they need to do is get the rights to it. Oh man.
And look, if the source code to Panzer Dragoon Saga is actually listed, that makes it a way cooler game to collect and put on your shelf.
Also, yes, that does make Panzer Dragoon Saga cool. The fact that it's lost and exclusive to the Saturn forever. We have like, how many games have been just like completely remade from the ground up these days? Like you're telling me that game's like, that is not a long RPG. Panzer Dragoon Saga is not like an incredibly substantial game. They could just re-fucking make it. It's not even that complicated. It's got like the combat system is semi-turn-based. Like people know how to make video games. They could remake Panzer Dragoon Saga. They just know no one's gonna buy it.
I don't know. There's 3 discs on it, so.
Oh yes,
or 4 discs. 4 discs, right? 4 discs.
Yeah, I'm sure video compression in like 1996 or 1998 was this exact same as it is now.
So, anyways, before I talk more about Panzer Dragoon Saga, I'm not going to talk a lot. If you were going to buy a Panzer Dragoon, what do we need to know about how much is it?
It's $80, Johnny.
$80? That's not bad for a Saturn game.
For like an iconic Saturn game that you would actually want to play, sure. I guess that's not bad.
Yeah. Not bad. It's not great. Like, look, I'm not saying it's great, but it's not bad for Saturn games. So, Panzer Dragoon Saga, for me, look, I just prefer RPGs. Again, there's a little bit of lore to it. Like, Panzer Dragoon has some it factor to it just because it's been in like the collector's zeitgeist for so long. It's been prevalent. People talk about it. The lost source code, never been reprinted. All this stuff, all the discs, all
the fake print runs that people throw out.
Yeah. Yeah, it has all those things that make it attractive. Here's what I can tell you for sure about it. There's a variant in the disc holders for it, and by disc holders, I'm being very generous. They're just like really shitty cardboard sleeves that are going to scratch your discs. There's white ones and there's black ones, and your game could come with one color or both colors. Just happens. I don't know anything more beyond that, but this is a true thing that you may experience. Find the color you like best. There's
all black. You got to have all black.
All black are the cool ones.
That's the cool
They
ones
look less dirty. The white ones always look dirtier. So I would trend towards the black ones myself, unless you get really clean white ones and then people think pristine. I don't know. It's an expensive game though. It's been expensive forever. It hasn't crusted as much as you would think, given how expensive it is. Still, it's an $800 to $900 game if you're going to go buy a copy of it. But it's been expensive for a long time. So the fact that it only hit 900 feels like that's bad, but it feels like it could have been worse. If Saturn for some reason had maintained its popularity, that would have been a much more upsetting number.
There are games that no one knows exist or cares about that are like over $1,000 now. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Give me one. Is Evo like a really expensive complete box game now?
I was gonna say, like, what are those trashy games like Poop Slinger and things like that?
Well,
like that
sure, yeah, exactly. Like Panzer Dragoon Saga is such like the game for collectors, the rarest games of all time, the best game of all time. I mean, these are gross exaggerations, but it's in that pantheon of like the most collectible games, most iconic game collectibles. So, I mean, I'm not going to justify the price as being worth it because, like, man, that game is a total 6 out of 10. But it could be worse, I think. The thing is, I also don't see its status as a collectible increasing over time. I think probably as the decades pass, fewer and fewer people will care about Panzer Dragoon Saga because it is just kind of this one-off Sega Saturn game, a console that will get lost to history eventually.
Unless there's some like reprint, like a deeper reprint of the Panzer Dragon games, like a compilation, a new one in the series or something, there's going to need to be some driving force to make it more collectible. I don't know what that is. Like outside of like a new game in that series, unless someone digs up that IP and wants to go hard at it, then yeah, I kind of see where it could fall off. But it, people love to dig up old things that were popular once, so could happen. I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibilities. I wouldn't bet on it, but I don't think it's impossible.
Making new IPs is really hard. But also, like, the entire Panzer Dragoon series is a series about dragons that shoot lasers. Like, it's cool as shit. Like, I'm shitting on the game Panzer Dragoon Saga. I think it's, like, okay, but the actual, like, setting is so fucking cool.
So here's a fun fact about my life, Tyler. The first kickball team I played on, because I did that as an adult, was called the Laser Dragons.
What?
That was our team.
Oh, all right. I guess there's more Laser Dragons than just Panzer Dragoon. But all right, yeah, great. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Laser Dragons are awesome. Who doesn't want Laser Dragons? Anyways, what's your next game, Tyler? We do share 4 games on our list, right? 4 or 5? So what's your next one?
Yeah, Johnny, we just kind of put these as we were thinking about games, and we both put this at number 2. This is not an ordered list, but
no,
Tomb Raider for the Sega Saturn.
It's a good one.
Is so interesting to me because when I think Tomb Raider, I think PC and I think PlayStation. And I think most people probably think PlayStation. The PC version sold a lot, though. I remember that being in stores forever. I mean, it's Tomb Raider. But there was also the Sega Saturn version, and all 3 of them were developed simultaneously. This isn't like a port or anything. In fact, the European version of Tomb Raider was, by a technicality because of like marketing reasons, released like 2 weeks earlier than any other version. So the first print of Tomb Raider is the PAL Sega Saturn version, which glows over onto the US version because in some mindfucky way, the Sega Saturn version of Tomb Raider is the quote-unquote first version of Tomb Raider, even though they were developed independently and all released at the same time.
Kind of.
I don't think to be clear, I don't think the Sega Saturn version of Tomb Raider is the version of Tomb Raider. If you're going to buy Tomb Raider, the PC big box is iconic. It comes in that trapezoid box. The PlayStation version is like, I'm not making this up, $25 probably tops. Just get one of those versions. But
I don't know. This isn't that expensive. This is $35. You get the better box art, and you get the first print.
Yeah, I'm shitting on the Sega Saturn version, but yeah, I still think it's cool to own the Sega Saturn version of Tomb Raider.
Yeah, like for that little tidbit alone, this makes it cool. Because if you just have 10 games on your shelf and someone asks you about them, you got to say something about them, like, oh, why this? And it's like, well, let me tell you about Tomb Raider. Did you know? You get to like push your glasses up your nose and like really wave your finger in the air and tell some people some shit that's going to bore them, but you're going to feel really good saying it.
Oh, absolutely. I do endorse owning a PAL Tomb Raider just because it is like the technicality first version of it. PAL Sega Saturn cases, I don't know a lot about PAL Sega Saturn, but at least some of their games come in like that shitty cardboard black case. They're not the nice big jewel cases. They're garbage. And so not only will it be like this one-off game that doesn't fit anywhere in your collection, it's like a different size, everything is different, but it also just feels like absolute garbage. I hate PAL Sega Saturn games. It's like a PS1 long box.
Yes, but here's the good news. It's not that expensive. Like, whichever version you want. You can get a PAL copy for also like $25 or $30. So don't stress out about this. Yeah, if you want, you can get a Japanese version for like $15. Like, you can get all the Tomb Raiders that were released in all the regions, primary regions, Japan, PAL, US, less than $100. You can have all 3. Go do it if that's your jam.
Johnny, as we mentioned on the previous episode, that one time once a copy of Tomb Raider sold for like $100,000. And, even if it's gone down in price 90% since then, someone out there thinks Tomb Raider's pretty cool. And so do we. It's a really important action-adventure game.
Yep. All right. next game on our list, do we want to do a shared one or you want me to pull out an individual?
Johnny, let's just say Radiant Silvergun.
All right, Radiant Silvergun. Hey, Tyler, Radiant Silvergun's a pretty good game, yeah?
Radiant Silvergun's a pretty good game. Even more than that, and I mean, this must be the time that we were collecting, but when I started collecting around 2005, like Radiant Silvergun was such a collectible game. It was like $150, $200 in the era where like a video game over $100 was like absolutely eye-popping. And I don't even know what made it into that status. It's not rare. It is a very good shooter. It's a unique shooter, but it's also on the Sega Saturn, which is a console where you could point out like 15 great shooters. So I don't know what gave it the status that it has.
But it was cool. Like, I don't know what it was, but it was one of those it games when someone showed their Saturn collection and then they showed their imports and they're like, yeah, I got Radiant Silvergun. Everyone was like, oh, damn, Radiant Silvergun? Like,
I don't know if we made this episode or this is an episode we're planning on, but just like games that used to be like the swag games, like Stack Up was definitely one. But yeah, Radiant Silvergun was a swag game. Like, I didn't know any Sega Saturn imports, but I knew what Radiant Silvergun was. It was my first expensive purchase, I think. I think I spent $175 on my copy of it, and I remember being like, holy fuck, I just spent $175 on a video game. It was like a really big deal when I bought it.
Yeah, this is like a part. That's going to be a partner episode to our like things that made you cool in the 2000s. Swag games, definitely are a category we could have listed, but it's just going to be its own episode. Okay. And Radiant Silvergun was on that list. Like, it's hard to explain. Like, you know, you just get like old collector brain and you're just like, man, they got Radiant Silvergun. That is so, like, I don't know why I thought that shit was cool. I got incepted somehow because I like, it wasn't like I came out, like I was a guy who played Saturn and I was just like, damn, they got Radiant Silvergun. What the fuck did I know about Radiant Silvergun, especially in like 2004 or 5? Like, I didn't know shit about Radiant Silvergun, but suddenly something in my brain was like, that is cool. Everyone says it's cool. It must be cool. It is cool. Like, without question, without verification, I was like, that's an expensive game and that's a cool game. People love that game. I don't even know where that came from, Tyler. That's just from like hanging out with collectors.
And then there's like this group of people. I think it's because it became like a hot just collectible, like a shelf collectible. There's like a group of shoot 'em up fans who like think Radiant Silvergun is just like the most overrated piece of trash ever, and it's not.
Oh, the backlash.
There's Radiant Silvergun backlash, which is really funny. It's like an objectively cool game, and it's not just like a standard like. I mean, I think a standard bullet hell shooter is great, but it's very like boss focused, and you start out and you just have like weapons power ups that you like hold 2 or 3 buttons together to use different weapons rather than getting power-ups like you would in a normal game. It's a very cool game. It reminds me of Star Fox 64 for some reason. I think that just the ship designs, the very polygonal ship designs remind me of Star Fox.
Fair.
Even though it doesn't play anything like that. Anyway, I think everyone... I think everyone knows what Radiant Silvergun is, but like we live in the modern world where that's not the case anymore.
Nope. White and black. Let's talk about it. What made it cool?
White and black. What?
No, that's Ikaruga. Go.
Oh my god.
What? Same company. What? This game had a hook. That was like one of the things that made it cool. It's its hook.
I mean, its hook is that you have all the different weapons that you can use just by pressing different button combinations, and it's just like a series of boss battles and kind of short levels in between them. I don't know. This game's like 2 hours long, I think, which I don't. Maybe I played this. I remember I played this mostly in high school, but I remember it being like way longer than other shooters I played. But maybe I just didn't have a great concept of what shooters are out there.
So yeah, if you guys don't know, this is also a treasure game. People love treasure games. All of their design is always tight. It's incredible that there's any backlash to this. Again, like we were saying, the hook is that you have all of your weapons and the button combinations which unlock them. Which just gives you a different style of game, even though it's a shmup. So If you don't, it's overhead shmup. Do we need, like, I don't know how much people know about Radiant Silvergun.
I think if they know it's a shooter, yes.
If you ever wanted to fly a sword, come on. Radiant Silvergun.
Judgment Silver Sword on the Wonder Swan.
Ooh, nice call out. All right. This game will cost you still $200 today. That's the fun part about this one.
Absolutely bananas that this game has not budged in price in 15 years. Like, not that it should be like some crazy expensive game, because it's not rare. But it's an absolutely beloved shooter by a certain segment. And, like, shooters are traditionally one of the most collectible genres of video games. Nothing? Just hasn't budged at all?
Well, also, some people will tell you it is the best Saturn game, regardless of region. Hands down. This is like, we'll make lists and you'll see it at number 1. 100%. So, the fact that it has that going for it, too, and still nothing?
It's crazy.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird.
And I mean, I think you've said this before, but it might be just a... So it might be... People might want it more as, I don't know, copies filter out into the ether, but then as more people just buy games for their shelf, like, the fact that this is a really cool playable import matters a lot less to people. Because 100%. The average person you'd be showing this off to has no connection to Radiant Silvergun.
Yeah, I mean, I just think a lot of people don't have a connection to Saturn. Saturn needs, like, its second golden age of collectors to come in to move prices, because I feel like it's flagging, just as, you know, what collectors are after and, like, where the collector market for games has gone. Saturn is, like, kind of fallen off. And there, you know how we had the conversation of, like, what is the game on Saturn? I think if we struggle to agree to that, I think general collectors have a hard time pushing to that, which makes it hard for, you know, people are just coming in and, you know, spending their money, you know, like, I don't want to call them shelf collectors, but more like investor types. If we can't point to what is the game for it right here, especially a US copy, then why is anyone going to come over here and buy games? For
you are, we're talking right now, Johnny, in the Sega boardroom of 1996. Oh man, guys, no one can point to the game. Why is anyone going to buy this thing?
Yes,
but yes, that is a problem.
Well, they didn't have they don't have a flagship Sonic, which is part of the problem. You know, Sega made a lot of mistakes in this era, and the Saturn is a wonderful little console, but I just think Sega was being mismanaged at this time, and, you know.
Johnny, one might say the Sega home console division made nothing but mistakes and got really lucky with the Sega Genesis.
Yeah, you might say that. Or they had, like, a really strong American division that pushed them to heights they didn't expect to reach. I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to the next game. You want to do another shared one, or you want me to pull an individual? You want to pull an individual? What do you want to do? All right, let's fight. Let's do this. We both picked a Sonic. I'll talk about mine first, and then you can talk about yours. So I picked Sonic Jam. I think it is the Sonic for the Sega Saturn. We can fight about it. Yes, it is a compilation, 100%. But it is not what all the other ports are now. This is a true port. It's not being emulated by Genesis. This is all 4 of the mainline Sonic games. And you can use the Knuckles, like, locking cart capability. They've, like, programmed that into it through all the games. So you can do that, which is awesome. It's just, and it's on the Saturn. What do you want? Plus, here's the thing
what
that,
do I
like,
want? Why do I want it if they already look and play amazing on the Genesis?
Because this is the Saturn, and you don't have a Genesis anymore. That's old trash, and you are just removed from it, so you couldn't buy those games, even though they're definitely on the shelf still at the same time that this exists. But you know what this has that those don't have? Sonic World. Do you know what Sonic World is?
The fucking menu.
Yeah, it's like a 3D world, which is museum-esque, where Sonic can go and interact with, items of the game and the world in a 3D environment which hadn't really been a thing before. This is unique to this game. All the other ports of this game use the Genesis ports. So this is unique coding specific to this, which makes it a cool collectible. And it's the only one with Sonic World. Fight me, Tyler.
Fight you. How many?
Oh, it's also $200.
Oh, just $200 for a compilation of 4 Sonic games. How many Sonic compilations have been released over the years?
That are a compilation of these 4 games? This code? None.
Wow, this has a exclusive menu. It's a 3D menu.
And an exclusive menu, exclusive code for all 4 games? Come on.
Because it's a port. Johnny, I have never once, I've sat down in front of like my PlayStation 3 and been like, oh, should I put in Sonic Ultimate Gems collection and maybe play some games? I have never once in my life been like, I feel like playing Sonic 3. I'm going to go put in the Sega Saturn version. Not once in my life have I even considered that. I don't even know if there's any differences or anything, because who in the world is playing Sonic 3 on the Sega Saturn? It's just not a thing people consider. It's crazy.
I'm going to tell you what you sound like. You sound like a guy who likes to watch movies, right? But you're also illiterate. So you're like, I've never considered picking up a book and reading it. Why would you even do that? I could just watch a movie. I'm trying real hard here, Tyler. Just like, let me have this one. Let me have Sonic World.
Just let you have Sonic World. All right. I picked the correct Sonic game in a console starved for Sonic games.
You ever jumped on a trampoline in any other Sonic games in 3D?
I probably.
Look, there's things to do.
There's things to do in Sonic World.
There's things to do in Sonic World. Look, you can go find Tails. There's stuff to do. I'm just saying. You can also use the Saturn's 3D control pad. Come on.
I feel compilations they just don't feel collectible in any word. Like if it was literally just a port of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and it had like some little extras like Sonic World and some bullshit. I don't know, maybe they added a zone or something. Like that would be so much more premium feeling than just like we don't know what to do. The fact that they're including all 4 of their main games is such a like, oh crap, we don't know what to do with the Sega Saturn. Just have all the old Sonic games. You guys like this, right? It feels desperate and bad.
To me, it feels like all 3 Sonic games are actually, and Knuckles. So all 4 of these Sonic games are actually one cohesive thing. And they just said, all right, here's the story. Here's everything that's in it. Here's the whole package. And you get all the Knuckles backwards compatibility through those. I feel like they're just like, this is the thing. Notice they didn't put Spinball in there.
What about the time Sonic entered Robotnik's pinball machine, though? Like, that's part of the Sonic story. It's because they didn't want to port that, because these are all native ports, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. Look, I'm trying to dress it up as much as I can. Tell me why you think Sonic Jam is better, especially after, like, poo-pooing my price, knowing that yours is roughly the same price.
Okay, your game is Sonic Jam. My game is Sonic R. Which you can have for the ridiculous price of like $175.
Like Sonic, are you kidding? Yeah, Sonic, are you kidding me? Come on.
Sonic R, it's bumping, Johnny. Sonic R is my jam. Sonic R, I believe right now is the only video game soundtrack I have in my car. I don't listen to like digital stuff. I use a USB stick with files loaded on it, like it's 2001 or something. But Sonic R is the only video game soundtrack in my car. And man, it got mediocre reviews. It's okay. It's a really weird racing game where you race as Sonic, but he controls, or you race as Sonic characters, but they control like vehicles. It's almost impossible to describe because it is such a strange thing to see bipedal mammals that are like steering rather than just walking in the direction you want them to walk. It's a racing game if I didn't say that, but yeah.
It's like a cart. Yeah, it's like a kart racer, but you're mammals.
So it's not exclusive.
Anthropomorphic mammals.
It's not exclusive, but the other version is a PC port. So really the Saturn version is the real version. of Sonic R. And like Sonic Jam, there's nothing, the Sonic World is exclusive, whatever, but like Sonic R is like a real exclusive Saturn Sonic game. And then 75% of this pick is literally just for the soundtrack. It's
All
that
right.
good.
Okay. I don't think you sold people.
All right. Well, you picked a port collection, so.
All right. Shall we talk about the next game we share? Just get that over with.
What we got?
Saturn Bomberman. It's a good game.
Whoa.
It's fun.
Whoa, you're coming out the gate hot by calling it a good game and not the best Bomberman experience ever designed by man.
I mean, it's probably that. There's a lot of Bomberman games, so the problem when you have that many games is you divide your fans across many games, and they're still making Bomberman games. So I don't know if I'm going to call it the best Bomberman experience anymore, but that was always the story, right? Like, oh, people are over here talking about Bomberman Second Attack on the N64, but true like players knew that the best Bomberman was sitting on the Saturn. And if you weren't playing it on the Saturn, what were you even doing? You were playing the wrong one. You could get multiple multi-taps. Multiple multi-taps.
Are you going to, though?
You could have 7 players.
Are you going to? You could have 10 players.
I have 2.
Yeah, how many times have you had 8 people over your house to play Saturn Bomberman?
Never once. How many times have I had more than 4? Never, ever. Wouldn't it, like if you, as a kid, if you would have told me that 7, 8, 9 people could play a game on one console, I'd ask you why. How is this going to be good? Where would you fit people around this 22-inch television that sits on the floor? What a horrible idea.
I just imagine taping up the TV because you don't want people screen peeking. Like, obviously in Bomberman, that's not a thing, but
like, I'm talking the logistics of just getting that many people around a TV. How would you even do it?
I mean, people do it at, like, conventions. I think at, like, MagFest, I've seen people playing 10-player Saturn Bomberman.
On, like, a 22-inch TV from, like,
not
the
on
90s?
a 22-inch TV. Anyway,
well, that's what I'm saying, but that's like what people had.
So to be clear, Saturn Bomberman also has a lengthy and really cool single-player campaign where there's classic Bomberman stuff and you fight against bosses and all that. It also has some of the best art, probably the best art of the entire Bomberman franchise, at least that I'm familiar with. I know there's a lot of Bomberman games. But I do feel like a good portion of the value beyond just the rarity comes from the idea of playing it with 10 people rather than the reality of you will never actually play this game with 10 people unless you're going out of your way to like a convention where the fact that you own the game doesn't matter. And the 2 people listening to the show right now who frequently play 10-player Bomberman are going to write me in like, I spent $500 and I get my full value out of it because me and my 9 friends regularly get together to play Saturn Bomberman as adults.
They are definitely going to write us and let us know.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, Bomberman is expensive though. That's part of the problem, right? If you buy the US version,
it's
like $500.
Bones. This is one of those games, like, there's like 4 or 5 games that came out like when the Sega Saturn was dead, and they're all like the best Sega Saturn games. It's like when I know I'm not a Panzer Dragoon Saga version, but like Panzer Dragoon Saga, was it Dragon Force, Magic Knight Rayearth, Shining Force 3, Saturn Bomberman, all these are like the latest releases. It's so tragic.
You can buy a Japanese version if you want to go that route for like $40. But if you're like looking for that shelf swag, it's the US version.
I mean, so the Japanese version, I don't remember what the Saturn version looks like now, or the US version. But the Japanese version has really good box art. So I do think there's a little bit of swag, but it also screams like, I'm the poor person. I bought the original copy of the game. That's not rare. I'm being true. Facetious, by the way.
No, you're right. Look, you're identified as a poor if you have that. I like the box art for the US one. It's basically the same as the Japanese one.
No, the Japanese one has both the white and the black Bomberman on it, and a bunch of stupid anime chibi people standing in the bottom. There's so much more stuff going on.
Is there so much more stuff going on?
There's more stuff.
What's the more stuff? What are you not seeing on the US version?
I don't know, Johnny. Like talking about box art on our audio podcast is always a problem.
That's true. It's true. Okay, let's move on. There's a few of the dinosaurs cut off, but whatever. We can all agree that it's better than the PAL artwork, though, huh?
Everything's better than anything PAL. What's the PAL artwork? Is it just like a picture of Bomberman?
It is like they removed the background, all the other stuff in the background, and just focused on Bomberman.
Why?
And like,
okay, yeah, it's a picture of Bomberman with an explosion behind him. It's like, all right, so we went from the Japanese one, which is the most complex, has the most characters, the most things going on. Went to the US one, which has a background, has a little bit of stuff going on, and then in PAL are like, no one wants like interesting stuff happening. Here's the main character.
Yep. Pretty boring.
It's like it's the 1990s version of how half video games are just like guy holding a gun on the cover, or like guy's face looking at you.
It is a little bit like that. All right. Well, that was Saturn Bomberman. We both agree it's a good, fun game. It's a little bit pricey. What else do you have on your list, though? Like, what else you got for me?
Johnny, I'm going to bring up a game, another late release Sega Saturn game that's also very expensive that I already brought up, Dragon Force.
Oof.
Dragon Force is a very fucking cool strategy game. And this is someone who got brought up on the show multiple times recently. I don't know why, but Forgotten Freshness, Frank from Forgotten Freshness in Mechanicville, New York. Shout out to the coolest game store ever, as I'm sure it still is 15 years since I've been to it. He really turned me on to this. This is one of his favorite Sega Saturn games. Also kind of one of everyone's favorite Sega Saturn games, but it's an army-based strategy game where you kind of have like a risk map going on, and you're conquering a map. And when you get into battles with the opposing generals, you have two generals on either side of the battlefield, and you have an army of different units you command. And it's like 100 fucking sprites on the screen, and you get like this side, almost isometric 3D view of the battle. And it looks so crazy to me, seeing that many sprites on the screen in a relatively old game. And it's a really cool game. And you like command your units in these battles. You know, it's a strategy game. What am I gonna explain the gameplay of Dragon Force for? I think it's a cool game, but I think just the way it looks really puts it over the edge. And the fact that, you know, it's got a power metal band as a name, and again, it has the word dragon, which makes it cool automatically.
It's also got a bunch of variant discs. It's cool. It's working designs. Got that swag.
I got that working design swag. Oh, yeah, you turn it on the side. It's got a pink logo, so everyone knows I spent $400 on Dragon Force. But yeah, it's totally worth it. It's not worth it, but of the swag games, is this my only swag game? I guess Saturn Bomberman is also a swag game, but yeah, those are my two swag games that I really like. I kind of think like the other swag games aren't worth it, and I'm not coming at this from a value perspective. I'm coming at this from like, these are the first 10 games I would buy regardless of price. But the problem is when you get to something like Burning Rangers. Burning Rangers is a cool game. Burning Rangers is like $700 now. And when you get to like $700, it's just like, I wouldn't even be buying a Sega Saturn game for $700. I would just like buy something else. I would probably buy multiple other things. So yes, in a theoretical top 10 where like money is absolutely no object, I would probably have Burning Rangers on this list. But the price of some of the Saturn games like transcends the fact that I would even want to buy a Sega Saturn game. But not Dragon Force. Dragon Force still makes the list. When I brought this up, you said like, oh, Dragon Force kind of bored me. What the fuck,
It did
John?
bore me. Look, I played it late, okay? Late. I have, it also has a sequel, like, you know, that you can get in Japanese. I just, like, it didn't hook me immediately. I don't think it's bad. I just was like a little slow to get into, and it's expensive. So if I'm like thinking about my list, like, is that the experience I want to give people? It's a sweet game. It's working designs. I'm not arguing with it being on your list. I'm not saying put it on your list. I think that's like probably better than one of the games I'm going to talk about, like 100%. But, you know, what do you want? I think that's a pretty niche audience, which is fine and good. That's like where the most collectible games are usually found. Like, I don't have a problem with it. I personally found it to be a little slow. That's what I
play RPGs. It's like a tactical RPG. You love this shit.
I do love tactical RPGs, but that's not true. I don't love tactical RPGs. I love Shining Force.
Oh, full disclosure. Frank, Forgotten Freshmas, gave me a copy of this game for free because I was hanging out at the store with him one day and like putting stickers on games or like cleaning games. And at the end of the day, he was just like, "Here, this is your payment," and he just gave me a copy of Dragon Force. That's how things were back in good old 2009.
Yeah, that's a pretty good payment.
And now we pimp him on the show. What a great investment.
Yeah.
Just all the time he gets to be mentioned. Johnny, what do you got? You're putting something up against Dragon Force now.
Shining Force 3.
All right. Well, I haven't played that, so I can't really argue here.
Yeah. So the tragedy of Shining Force 3, as I've expressed many times, is that it is an RPG that takes place from 3 perspectives. And so it was supposed to be 3 scenarios, and it is 3 scenarios in Japan, and a premium disc, which does some stuff after you have all the content done, loads all your saves together and gives you like additional battles. So cool. Anyways, Shining Force 3 it's a Shining Force game, but it's on the Saturn. What do you want? It's one of my favorite RPGs ever created. And they gave you a Saturn version, which, the graphics were, I'm not going to say better because they tried to make them like 3D rather than just keep them sprites, but there was also sprites in it. It's a weird thing. Like the battles, like maybe the battles look a little worse. I don't know. But just the idea that there was going to be these 3 parts and come together in one game, and then the premium disc for the resolution, like, so good. How do you fight against Shining Force 3? You want to put...
you want me to fight against it? Because I got one thing that I can hold against it as someone who has never played Shining Force 3. And this is something that I think goes for a lot of the premium Saturn games. The box art is really not good.
It's not good. It 100% is like kind of stupid. It's not the worst, but it is not good. It is. You know what it is? It's like a collection of images that don't make sense together.
Sure. So, yeah, there's like the bad guy in the background, but facing the viewer, but then also the main character is pasted in the center of the box art facing the viewer, so it doesn't make sense because he's kind of holding his sword back. So he's kind of facing the wrong way.
His mouth is open. His mouth is open.
He's got a little bit of the Transformers dull surprise face going on.
Yeah, well, that's not my problem. Is he never says anything, so what's his fucking mouth doing open?
All right.
Say the box art is a bit of a train wreck, and then it's got like one of my least favorite characters, the wizard, like always terrible. And their arm is like in the Saturn logo. They thought like, hey, well, how do we make this shitty art cooler? Like maybe if we look like it's reaching into the text of our logo and stuff, like that'll be awesome. It's not. It sucks. It makes it worse.
Yeah, I don't know. The Panzer Dragoon box art, not Panzer Dragoon, Panzer Dragoon box art, not great, but Panzer Dragoon Saga is also just like the main character kid and a dragon, like kind of in shadows. That never looked impressive to me. Dragon Force is a game where you're basically fighting gigantic armies. Like the whole point of the game is that there's like a billion things happening on screen, and it's just like 2 generic anime guys on the box. I don't know. Sega Saturn box art for like, especially the expensive stuff, is not super impressive, I think.
I mean, just here's one where the PAL art is better, because they just like it just looks like an anime RPG, which I don't love, but it's better. It's better than what we got. But this is like the art they got in Japan. This is the same art that they got in Japan. It's like maybe in the jewel case version, it's a little worse too. Which is weird to think about. That
and you're
somehow,
talking Shining Force 3.
Yeah, Shining Force 3 still. Yeah. It's weird to be like, oh, maybe the PAL one is like the better art, but what are you going to do? I don't know. It's a great game. I love this game. I've played it through a couple of times, played all 3 scenarios. So cool. So cool that you can combine the scenarios. Real lackluster that it didn't get completed in the... I've talked a lot about this game
you sure have.
on the podcast, so I'm going to stop.
All right, go get the... does it have disc variants? It probably does, because stupid working designs.
It doesn't. Nope.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay.
Not working. It's $300.
All right, Johnny.
This one's not working design. I think that's Shining Wisdom.
Oh, is
Shining,
it? Okay.
Yeah, Shining the Holy Ark. Yeah.
3 Shining games. I'm talking about Panzer Dragoon being the iconic thing, but we also got 3 Shining games. So maybe it's Shining. It's not.
Technically 6 if you go to Japan.
Ooh. Oh, if you split a game into multiple parts, you're just kind of juicing your numbers there, but does that count? Does it count? Are there 6 Shining games? Do we count Shining Force 3 Scenario 2 and Shining Force 3 Scenario 3? Are those the names of the game as different games?
Yep, and the premium disc. Don't forget the premium.
Premium disc sure doesn't seem like it counts as a game.
Counts. Got different content in it.
It has content. All right. Anyway, Shining is now the... Shining Force 3 specifically, the most iconic.
Depending on... Game. I was going to say, depending on how you count, 5 or 6. If you don't count the premium, it's going to be 5.
All right.
Okay.
Johnny, my last American game here. I realized I already went into an import. Oh, wait, no. We didn't talk about Nights into Dreams.
Oh, shit.
That kind of should be the first one. I mean, I know we got Panzer Dragoon. I maybe argue for Panzer Dragoon. But Nights into Dreams... specifically, Nights into Dreams was bundled with a controller, the 3D controller,
3D,
which is a weird controller with an analog stick. I don't even know, because the Sega Saturn 3D controller is like not great. I don't even know that it makes me that much better at playing Nights into Dreams. But if you've never played Nights into Dreams, it is a 2D flying racing game. That's the best way to describe it.
It's a weird game. It's wonderful.
It is pretty wonderful. But you play a jester dude flying around in 2D space through a series of rings, and sometimes you have to do loop-de-loops, and you basically have to like hit checkpoints and complete courses quickly. And then you get to fight a boss, which has some different mechanics. But it's not really, I mean, in a world where we're coming out of like just platformer after platformer after platformer after platformer, it is something very unique and different, which is cool. And it has a cool name, Nights into Dreams. I don't know.
I mean, and they have this whole controller that they gimmicked up for it, that like trying to sell it, and it comes in this big cardboard box. It's yeah, I mean, when you see that big cardboard box on someone's shelf, you're like, oh, yeah, you got the good one with the controller, too. But you know what it does? The game just comes in a cardboard sleeve. Would you have preferred if that big box had a regular case in there?
Yeah, obviously. I think this is, if you're a Saturn collector, I think this is definitely a game you buy twice, because you want the controller bundle, because the game is so associated with the controller, but then you also want the big jewel case version because you want just a big copy of Nights into Dreams in your collection. Yeah. How much, we both put like the controller bundle. Did you put the price for just a copy of the game somewhere? $130? There's no way. Is that really what Nights costs? J-Dog, did I lose you?
No, I'm here. $130, yeah. You can.
That's what the big box costs? Isn't this like the most common Saturn game?
What, are you surprised that it's this much?
Right, not 130? The big box, that's what the long box costs. Yeah, for Nights into Dreams? Yeah. Fucking... I'm about to talk about Galactic Attack, which is a rad 2D shooter, and that's like $75. That's a 2D shooter.
Yeah, go get this one. There, look, the wrong version to buy. I said sleeve, but it comes in a jewel case. you can't really go wrong. Like, just buy one of these versions. But yeah, you can get the box version for as little as 130. You can get the jewel case for around 100. I say jewel case. The Saturn long box for like 130. There's one with like a not for resale sticker on that you sometimes see. I don't think it matters which ones you buy, but yeah, go get either version.
Okay, the one in the cardboard sleeve is a demo disc that you're thinking of. You're right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like $100, and that's like pretty much with everything. If you hunt, I have seen it go lower. Wow, I'm actually looking at eBay right now. Some of them were selling for like $60. You could get a copy of this game for $50 or $60. You should do that. What a good game.
Sure. Yes. It's a cool and iconic game, Johnny. Johnny, let me move on to now my last American Saturn game, Galactic Attack, which, honestly, first I always got this game confused with Darius Gaiden because they were both Saturn shooters that were not super expensive, and but yeah, the main thing I remember about Galactic Attack, besides the fact that it has pretty cool box art and is a 2D shooter, is that 2D shooters, always a super collectible genre. People want their PC Engine shooters. People want their Saturn shooters. Galactic Attack, when I started collecting, really hovered in like the $30 to $40 range. And I always thought it was really strange to see a shooter that was that cheap. Because when I think of cheap 2D shooters, I think of games like D-Force, which is like just the worst thing ever on the Super Nintendo.
Love to talk about D-Force.
Dude, love some D-Force. But yeah, it was always really cheap, and I never played it until, like, I don't know, 5 years ago, because I just assumed it was bad. But it's fucking awesome! It is kind of squarely in between the old... I don't know enough about shooting games to really use terminology here, but like the old SNES style of just like a traditional 2D shooter and a bullet hell shooter, which is, you know, a more modern 2000s bullet hell shooter. It's got just... Johnny, it's great. This is layer section if you're a Japanese purist, but you already knew that. I don't know. How do you discuss a 2D shooter? You shoot things. You memorize patterns, and then you use your knowledge, and you feel like you're better in the game because you memorized where the ships are going to come out, and then you shot them, and then you feel like you accomplished something. Pattern memorization is really fun, Johnny. Anyway, maybe it's on here because I feel like it's a bit of a deal, but it would still be in my top 10 first things to collect.
So this is also considered, what, the sequel to Rayforce, right?
No. This is Galactic Attack is Layer Section 1. I don't like Rayforce or Ray Storm, which are the sequels to this game, because they made the Galactic Attack is 2D, and then they made the other games like this isometric. It's like on a angled plane. It's bullshit. People like those games. I don't like those games.
So, not the same as those. They're made by Taito.
I mean, it's in the same series, but this one's more 2D than its sequels, which makes it much better, I think.
Well, the naming conventions are just hard for this one, right? Just like, hey, it's Galactic Attack. Hey, it's Layer Section. Hey, it's Rayforce and Raystorm. Like, which series am I in? It just gets confusing.
Yeah, what? This is one of the most confusingly named games. I agree. I think... and like multiple names used in the same region, because these are all arcade ports. Anyway, I don't remember it off the top of my head how it works, but send your hate mail to me if you like Rayforce and Raystorm, because I don't.
Yeah, if you like them, I think was Galactic Attack working designs too on the Saturn? I can't remember.
No,
it's like
$75. If it was working designs, it would instantly just be $250 for no reason.
Yeah, like Raystorm is on the PS1, and that's working designs, right?
Yeah. Wait, no. Okay, Rayforce is Galactic. Rayforce is good. I fucking love Rayforce because we're talking about the game Rayforce. What? Oh, I hate this series. Okay. It is so confusing.
Yeah. Okay.
What is it? What are the two sequels then? There's Ray Storm, which is also on PlayStation, and then Ray Crisis, which also sucks. Okay. Send your hate mail to me if you like Ray Storm and Ray Crisis, because those games suck. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. You got anything else you want to say about this, or shall I say mine? All right. I have. Let's see. Where should I go? Okay, this is a weird one. This is like I think my softest pick, but it's a nostalgia pick for me, and I just think seeing this on the shelf does something. Fight me if you like. I got Virtua Cop. Because, I love a gun game, and I think, like, when you see a gun game on someone's shelf, I just think that looks cool. That speaks to me. So, the version you would get, look, there's the wrong way to get this in, there's a three game pack-in. You can find this game all over. It's not expensive, unless you get the version with the stunner, which is the gun for this. It's like $125. I think maybe Virtua Cop 2, I think I liked a little more, but if you're gonna get one, get the first one because that represents the series. I think better on whole as a better collectible. I don't think there's such a divide. Like, oh my god, Virtual Cop 2 is so much better. You're an idiot if you bought Virtual Cop 1. I don't think that's not the divide here. Plus, you're gonna want 2 guns anyways, so buy Virtual Cop and Virtual Cop 2 both in their big boxes and get 2 guns so you can play with a friend.
Johnny, I don't know if you know how I feel about Sega arcade game ports on the Sega Saturn and how good they are.
I do know, which is confusing too, because I look at your list and I'm like, man, I can't believe you put House of the Dead on your list.
What? I didn't. What are you talking about? What?
I'm joking. Okay. I'm joking, Tyler.
I think Virtua Cop is perhaps less egregious because the actual gameplay, like the actions you're taking in the game, are an action you're taking in real life of aiming a gun. So there's nothing to really feel like shitty and sloppy. Like, obviously, it doesn't look as good as the arcade version, but I don't think it's as bad as most of the other arcade ports. So if we're picking a gun game, sure, Virtua Cop is a totally cool pick. Especially the big box versions, which I only learned existed like a couple years ago when someone...
That's wild to me.
Yeah, someone posted on Instagram, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? I have so much Saturn stuff. I don't have those, and I just like immediately went and overpaid for them.
That's really funny to me. It's like... Were we already doing the podcast when you learned that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This was like maybe 3 years ago that I went and bought those.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Anyways, there's not a lot to say. Like, this is not a complicated game with a shit ton of things to say about it.
You shoot the bad guys. You don't shoot the good guys. In fact, it's so uncomplicated, it puts a giant crosshair over the guys you're supposed to shoot.
Yeah. The knock to me is that, it's a port, but I still feel like Virtua Cop is a very... Like, that whole Virtua naming convention is just like, makes me think of the Saturn first, so... Yeah, get Virtua Cop. Even though that's not where
one of those games that came in the 3-game bundle. Yep. What was that called? But that makes it like more... I feel like the fact that it was something that like a lot of people got basically for free makes it more associated with the Saturn to me.
I agree. Get them pack-ins. All right. Don't have more to say about that. So you can move on to your next game.
All right. Johnny, I kind of ran out of steam here. Mostly because the games, like I was looking at games and it was really the Burning Rangers being $700 where I'm like, that would not be in the first 10 games I buy at that price. And so I went with a game I really enjoy, Konami Antiques MSX.
Why do you enjoy this and what
Ultra Pack?
What is this? What is this?
Johnny, I like stupid old shit. And Konami Antiques, it's a game about like old furniture and chairs and the little wheel that makes thread. What is that wheel? What is anyway?
Spindle?
I don't know. Johnny, it's an MSX game collection. So there were 3 of these that came out on PlayStation, but the Sega Saturn one combines them all because this isn't the wimpy PlayStation we're talking about. It's the Sega Saturn.
This is the Ultra Pack?
The Ultra Pack. It's like 30 MSX games, which is really
That's
cool.
Kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy that they was 3 separate games on the PlayStation, but they made it just one game on the Saturn.
I love it.
I mean, and like this could have just like been 3 games in Japan. They would not have blinked at that.
I'm sure they wouldn't. Crazy. I mean, look at the Namco one. They got 5 compilations of the Namco thing.
Yeah.
Also, man, I think the Switch, like, we get a lot of compilations now, but I miss when just, like, old games were just worthless. They were just like, old games, here, have 12 of them. This is a budget game. But I guess there's so many games now that old games are kind of worthless. But some of the games, Gradius 2, it's got Parodius, it's got Penguin Adventure, which is kind of interesting from a historical perspective. That's Hideo Kojima's first game. Salamander, Time Pilot, and these aren't the arcade version, they're the MSX version. So even if you've played Salamander and Time Pilot, I don't know, interesting to play the MSX version. Why not? People like the MSX. I'm not a big MSX collector, but Year Kung Fu, Twinbee, Super Cobra. It has a lot of games that you know and have played, and it's the MSX version of it. I just think it's a really cool game. It used to be really cheap. It used to be like $30. You put the price in as $100, and that makes it a little less exciting to me. I assume it is cheaper in Japan. You probably looked at the eBay price.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Around 100. You can probably find it. And to be fair, that was a nice version of it, like with the OB and everything, making sure it was 100% complete. You could definitely find it cheaper if you don't care about like some of the innards.
All right. You should just go get your spine card. So the OB is the spine card. It's the little extra bit of paper that comes with your import Saturn games. What you do is basically you wrap that around the side of the box, and then you put the whole jewel case in a plastic bag to hold the spine card to the spine of the box, and then it makes it look nice on the shelf. In my opinion, for most games, for basically every game, it is worth paying the extra money just to make sure you have it. They don't command as much of a premium as compared to how often they are missing. So I think you should just pay up the premium for getting them.
Yeah. And I don't know. I want to make sure people heard you. There's a smart tip here. You said like put it in a plastic bag, or you can get a box protector for these, either in big box or a single jewel case, and display that OB with your game instead of like trying to flatten it and put it, on top of the disc.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't do this. Like one day I want to, but I'm just so lazy. So the problem with this is I have so many games, like I know I'm missing tons of spine cards. And if I started going and trying to display my spine cards, I would have to go and like basically rebuy all my games I didn't have spine cards for, because I'd want them to all be the same.
Yeah, I don't mind so much if a spine card is missing. Depends on the game. And depends on the price difference. Like most of the time you're right, it's not like too big a difference, so like who cares? But there's sometimes when that like really hits. Also, I just want to shout out Comic Bakery is in this compilation. If you haven't seen this, it's in the long tradition of ridiculous box art with a chef fighting off stuff, and here it's like it's a chef fighting off raccoons. Not that you would see that box art on there, but Comic Bakery's in there, and like as a kid, I always loved that. Like Burger Time, like any like food restaurant game for some reason always caught my eye as a kid. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like the idea that you would make a game about like a bakery or a restaurant, I just thought was the most ridiculous thing. So I thought it was novel. Anyways, that's a real dumb thing I just told you. Sorry, but I like it.
All right, you should. Yeah, we should talk about Diner Dash sometime, Johnny. All the collectible Diner Dash variants.
Let's do it. Let's talk about Panic Restaurant first, though. You want to know a game that no one talks about anymore? Panic Restaurant. No one has come up and talked to me about Panic Restaurant in a very long time.
I don't know what to tell you, Johnny. It's a random, rare-ish Taito game, and we've entered.
We just moved
Mario
on.
In it. Who cares?
Yeah, I know. We've moved on from that, but like that's just like when I started collecting, that was like one of those swag games. Remember, that's what we're talking about. Like, oh, you got Panic Restaurant. That was a 100% swag game, and now no one gives two shits about it.
I don't mean to. I was never into the Taito games, Johnny. And I mean, this might be just a product of the environment that I grew up in, the forum environment being an RF Generation, Game TZ, Nintendo age. I never thought the Taito games were cool. Bubble Bobble Part 2, Little Samson. I thought the unlicensed stuff was always like 100% the coolest. You got Indonesians, you got your Action 2, your Caltron. That stuff was always the stuff. You had a Bubble Bobble Part 2.
Kickmaster.
Yeah, Kickmaster. Kickmaster's not really up in that league of Panic Restaurant, though.
No, but we're talking about the Taito games.
But yeah, I never cared about Panic
Legend
Restaurant.
of like Elevator Action and Legend of Cage, those like two like similar boxes were always pretty sweet.
All right, everyone right into the show.
Bubble Bobble 2. You got Flintstones, both of them.
Yeah, like, Flintstones 2, never cared about it. It's just not as cool as the unlicensed stuff.
See, and the unlicensed stuff is even less interesting now than the Taito games now.
No, unlicensed NES is still super cool.
Boring.
Everyone get into unlicensed NES. It's the coolest stuff.
Boring.
Because if you're not collecting the full set, what does Bubble Bobble Part 2 matter? It doesn't. Just play Bubble Bobble. Like, how much Bubble Bobble do you need in your life?
Like, all of it.
But the unlicensed NES
you're talking
is so
to the
weird.
wrong guy. Look, buddy, we're talking about Bubble Dragons, all right? Go away. Love the Bubble Dragons here.
You can go get Bubble Symphony on the Sega Saturn, though, instead of Bubble Bobble Part 2. It's cheaper and has better graphics. It's really cool.
You sound so stupid right now.
I know. What are we talking about?
I love you. We're talking about Castlevania. Hey, have you ever heard of
the
Castlevania?
Night? Oh, the PlayStation game?
No. This is we're going to talk about the Saturn game. Hey, did you know that Castlevania Symphony of the Night was actually on the Saturn in Japan? And did you know that Symphony of the Night is just like one of the best games ever made, hands down? I won't be argued with.
Whoa. And the Saturn box art is super good.
Super cool. Hey, and did you know that this is not a port of the PlayStation game?
It's not.
It's not. Did you know it has more content? It has new stages and enemies and different music.
And like 3 playable characters off the bat.
Yeah.
Whoa. What some might call it the definitive version of the game, Johnny.
Yeah, probably. Like, unless you count that limited run version of this. You can now play in English or something. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, just so cool. Like, I don't know what was happening where they're just like, we're going to take this. We're going to take Symphony of the Night and we're just going to put it over here in Japan and we're going to make it better. What do you mean you're going to make it better, I say? And then they did.
The fact that it is outrageous that this wasn't released in America, but it might have been too late because Symphony of the Night's what, 1997, 1998?
Yeah.
So it was probably too late. That's why.
Here's the problem with this. For the greatest hits version, like a PlayStation, I would have released this version but this version had some bugs in it and it had like slowdown and there was just performance issues. Load times were longer, things like that. So as cool as all of this stuff is, which you can get around a lot of these problems with, different, if you just play the ROM, for instance, there's ways to get around a lot of this stuff, but did have those issues. As a collector though, this is still very cool. And the art is still so amazing. And if you collect Saturn, you just have to get used to having a couple of different size cases on your shelf. It's beautiful as a full set. All those white, long jewel boxes for the most part. Jewel cases, long boxes, just mixing those up. But yes, you're going to have to throw some Japanese stuff in there from time to time. And this one is definitely worth it. You can get it. Look, if you get it, a bad version of it, like less nice, you can get for like 100, 120. But pay the 150 to 200 to get it complete with all the paperwork and stuff in there. So, yeah, I'm surprised this game isn't more money.
I mean, it's probably just not that rare. It's like just one of those games that, we're sucking out of Japan because we're Americans and we want the cool games, but there's just a lot of it. Johnny, do you know what my last pick is?
I do, because I've got the list.
Oh, okay. What's my last pick, Johnny?
Oh, no.
Sounds like you don't know.
It's Shining the Holy Ark.
It is not Shining the Holy Ark.
Or Shining Wisdom.
I spent enough time trying to pick a 10th game that, I already picked Konami Antiques, and I'm trying to make this not like a super personal list. I think Konami Antiques is cool. You could probably just scrap Konami Antiques because that's a pretty personal, like if you're into weird old computer games thing. I spent enough time thinking about a 10th game. I felt like I was forcing it. So I was just like, I'm not going to pick one, Johnny. We're copping out in the episode. We're not delivering the content we promised. Maybe just don't start collecting Sega Saturn. It is too expensive and Oh, there's a lot of bad games on the Sega Saturn, as much as some people might not want to admit that.
There's also a lot of good games, and there's so many more good games like in Europe that you like, or in Japan that you like. I cannot believe that you couldn't muster up one. To me, this is not you taking a stand. This is you copping out.
It is not. So I don't want to just pick some cool Japanese game because like the whole point of the first 10 games is like this is the cornerstone of your collection. So even in that sense, like throw out Konami Antiques because that doesn't make sense. I think all my other picks are fine. But like if I just go tell you to buy Hyperduel or Sexy Parodius, because like yeah, those are cool shooters. I mean it just feels like I'm throwing in like a cool Japanese game. It doesn't feel like the cornerstone.
You could have put in Die Hard. People love Die Hard. You could have put in Duke Nukem. People love that, right? Love that port.
I mean, I'm not into the ports. And I love Quake, but I don't love Quake on Saturn. Die Hard Arcade's a beat 'em up, so I'm not there either.
I know. You could have put an X-Men versus Street Fighter in there. You could have put a Mega Man game in there. You could have put Daytona USA.
I have considered all this. I hate the Daytona Saturn ports. Like Mega Man. How much is Mega Man X4? It's like $360 fucking dollars. Just buy the PlayStation version. It makes no sense to buy the Saturn version. Yeah, you could buy Mega Man 8. But like, how much is Mega Man 8? It's like $600 fucking dollars.
You could have put Nights into Dreams Christmas here.
But, that doesn't feel like the right choice when I could be putting it in Mega Man 8. I'm just stepping away. I think that the 8 games I have are fine. That's a better start than trying to force 10.
It's cop out. Do the work. You got an F from me for not doing the work.
I'm sorry, Johnny. I failed you. Actually, Castlevania is pretty cool. And you see, like if I played Shining Force 3, I guarantee it would be on my list. I just haven't.
Yeah, if you like Shining Force 2
I like Shining Force 1 and 2, and I like Shining in the Darkness. So
this is that's why I said it's a cop out. It's a cop out.
Oh my god, just get Shining Force 3. Fine. I'll add that to my list, Johnny.
Or Castlevania, another fine choice. Anyways, I'm going to talk to you about my last game and not copping out on you because I love you guys. Resident Evil, which normally goes against my kind of ethos on these lists where I try to get games that really just represent the system. Like when you think about, I think about this game, it's the system, or it has to do something like really wild if it's a port to get on here. Like Castlevania having all this extra content and this beautiful art. Resident Evil is kind of in that vein. Not that it's better necessarily, but there are a lot of differences between the PS1 and the Saturn version. I also really like the box art for Resident Evil on the Saturn, so that goes a long way. But yeah, Saturn version has a battle mode. Did you know that?
I don't care about ports, sorry.
Okay. There's more detailed backgrounds. There's like...
I'm sorry. Wait, no, I do care. A fucking battle mode? Are you inviting your friend over after you play some Saturn Bomberman? 10 players, of course. You're gonna play multiplayer fucking Resident Evil? What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm looking this up now. Do you know what it is? Or are you just saying it exists?
I mean, I know what it is because I have it and I played it, but it's like...
Is it a multiplayer thing? Am I... What is battle mode?
No one tell him what battle mode. It's dubbed. I mean, look, we
just run around and shoot things.
Waves. Yeah, it's like waves.
With waves of enemies? What? This is the last game. What? This is not Gears of War. This is fucking Resident Evil. I don't want to be shooting my gun in Resident Evil. Shooting the gun is like the worst part of Resident Evil. That's why it's scary.
True. But they added like this wave mode in a lot of the other Resident Evil games in the future. And if you think this is the origin of it right here, weirdly, on a Sega Saturn, I think that's neat.
All right. I mean, I would have totally appreciated this if I had it as a kid, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play it. It's just a different experience on the Saturn. I don't like, it's a little weird. So if you play it, like some of the game looks better, and then a lot of it looks so much worse
which is weird, especially on a PS1. Like backgrounds are better, but like 3D models are worse. And that just speaks to the strength and weaknesses of the Saturn, I think. But yeah. You also get what is it? You've got some alternate battles. Like I think there's a second tyrant fight if you're in Chris's campaign. Yeah, that's a thing. There's a couple other like differences. Like there's just different things you can do. I think you got some alternate outfits. Like obviously they like trying to differentiate the game a little bit. There's a zombie Wesker in it, which if you care, but people are like, what happened to Wesker? And then there's a zombie version. Anyways, I just thought that was cool in the box art, man. Like, and if you collect Saturn and you're not necessarily collecting PlayStation, you can put a cool Resident Evil on your shelf. That's really what this is about to me. There's a bunch of other Japanese games I could have thrown in here, but I want one more American game, and there was other choices, but I think Resident Evil is still like a cool title, a big title, especially if you're speaking just to collectors. And it's not like cheap, but it's not that expensive. Like it's $200, which yes, objectively expensive for a fucking video game, ridiculous in this day and age. But it's a pretty cool game, and relative to like some of the expensive Saturn games, this one isn't up there that high. But if you really want to play this, they've made this game about 1,000 times, and you could play like all day for probably $10 or $20.
If you asked like 100 people off the street what platforms Resident Evil was released on, 100 of them would not say Sega Saturn.
But when they see it, they would be like, whoa, that's cool. Give them something to talk about.
I guess. You like the box art. I don't like the box art. I think the box art's boring. You don't
like the box art?
It's just a dude.
No, I like it. I know, but that's cool. Well, some of that's fine.
Cool. It's a zombie dude. He's scary.
Yeah. What am I supposed to say? I don't like that? Come on. You know that's like, this is 100% things I like. Like, yeah.
Johnny, let's breeze
It's not as good as House of the Dead. Some extras? Yeah, let's do that.
The extra bonus collector picks, which I just didn't even bother to think of, Johnny. I totally slacked off at the end of this episode because, like, if you're collecting Saturn imports, and let's be real, if you're the bonus collector picks, they're going to be import games because that's the definition of bonus cool Saturn stuff. But like, there's an entire genre of collector that just goes after Saturn imports or just goes after Saturn shooters. So, I mean, I've already mentioned how many times, like, Hyperduel, Sexy Parodius on my list, $90. It's a shooter with a lewd theme, which is delightful. But then the big one, which I don't even know if it's considered a huge swag collector game anymore, Shinrei Jutsushi Taramaru, Psychic Assassin Taramaru, which is a platform action game, kind of like Alicia Dragoon because it has like auto homing attacks. It's just one of these wild, not super fast, but it has great graphics and it's a cool, crazy game. Johnny, it's $1,200. You don't care about the gameplay. You care that it's $1,200 just because it's a cool fucking platform game. And it has a female protagonist. So another reason to
super boring.
Cost the big bucks. But my favorite thing about this game, besides the fact that it's super expensive, which is kind of the only thing that matters about this game, it's super fucking expensive. And no, I don't have one. The box art for this game, it's like a plain brown box with just some Japanese text on it, and it's got like a grid in the background. It looks like a fucking Go game. If you saw this in a random pile of games, you would immediately pass it over. Nothing about it looks impressive. It is the lamest thing to have on your shelf. And for such like a game about like a lady psychic assassin, it is insane how bad the box is.
Well, and it's because the graphics are too. The disc art is bad too. Like, it's really not hitting a home run here.
So this has always been fancy and expensive. Why is it $1,200? I don't understand. Is it the Japanese collector market that's propping this up?
I don't know, and there's so many on US eBay too. That's like
the thing.
So
like,
many.
It's not rare enough to be over $1,000 because there's just enough copies for sale. Like, I don't understand.
Do not buy this. Do not buy this game for $1,200.
I mean, don't buy this game. This is just on here because it's the super swag. Like,
yeah.
6 people on the internet are going to think you're cool if you own this.
Yeah, if you want to pop your collar, this is the game to pop your collar with.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more picks?
Is it not I'm looking at the disc art right now. I just realized I've never looked at the disc art. Is it a male? I always thought it was a lady in this game. I don't know.
Yeah, are you wrong about that?
I thought it was a lady with pigtails.
I've not played this game.
Oh, okay.
But
it's got like giant skulls in it. You would like it. I thought it's a lady with pigtails. It might just be a Japanese ninja dude with pigtails.
Oh,
whatever, Johnny.
That's worse. It's worse.
Just go look up Psychic Assassin because you're not going to remember Shinrei Jitsatsushi Tarumaru.
Nope. You sure aren't. It's not a very memorable name. Well, if you are like
I don't know, Johnny.
A white Anglo-Saxon who does not speak any other languages but English, you're going to be like, I don't know what that is. All right. You want me to go to mine? Are you done?
Go to your... Oh, I put Thunder Force 5. I don't even like Thunder Force 5 as much as Thunder Force 4. It just has a banging soundtrack. I don't know. What... Thunder Force 5, what does it cost? Probably $200 because it's a shooter. It's a horizontal shooter, so don't even get it. Go get Radiant Silvergun because that's a vertical shooter, which is way better. I'm telling you not to get my bonus collector picks. But Thunder Force 5, it has a cool name, and I feel like it has... swag behind it. People like that game, so go get it. Why not?
It's if you buy the Japanese one, it's not that expensive, really.
I mean, it's only in Japan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like less than $100.
All right. Yeah. All right. That's my bonus collector pick. Then go get that.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. For me, Elevator Action Returns is my first one because let's step out of the US and get some weird games. It's about $200. It's elevator action, but this game, people love this game. And I have not, full disclosure, I have not played this game because it was always expensive. And I was like, man, elevator action? I guess it was fine on the Nintendo and I enjoyed it, but what's going on? But it's a game that's maintained popularity. I watched some gameplay of it, and it looks pretty cool. It's almost, it almost looks Bionic Commando-esque a little bit, like the remake of Bionic Commando, where it's 3D. Kind of got that vibe a little bit from it, but anyways, I think it looks cool. It's got cool box art. It's a known franchise. I put it on here mainly because it's a game I want to go buy, and it's this is almost a list of hey, Johnny, these are things you like and, at one point planned on buying and never got to. So maybe think about it again or don't because the Saturn is dead and why isn't anyone buying it? I still think Saturn's cool, and I'm going to be the guy who picks stuff up like this and people are going to be like, why did you buy that? And by people, I mean Tyler, criticizing me for my purchases. Yep. The other thing I really like, and I'm not a big beat 'em up guy, but I did always like the D&D collection. So specifically, if you're going to buy this, it's one of the double-sized jewel cases. So make sure you get the outer box, though, because there's an outer box that goes around this. Spend $250. You can spend $150, even sometimes I think $75 to $100 to get a bad copy of it. But get the one with the outer box. It looks cool. It's Dungeons and Dragons, and when I was a kid, I heard there was this Dungeons and Dragons, kid. I say kid, but I was almost an adult. Heard that this game existed, and I was like, that's pretty cool, because my friends were very into beat 'em ups. Specifically a friend named Mike Hickson, and he was just like, hey, this game is awesome, and I always wanted to play it and never did. So when I started collecting Saturn, that immediately went on my list as something I wanted to look for. And then I have my last one is Deep Fear. That's $600. It's expensive. You can buy a Japanese version for $30. This is a survival horror game that takes place it's under the water, and oh god, what's that called? It's not an aquarium, but it's an underwater place. Man, I sound like a fucking idiot.
An underwater place.
Yeah, I sound like a fucking idiot right now, and that's fine. Anyways, it's another survival horror game, and it's kind of unique to the Saturn. And the PAL copy has always been notoriously expensive. And it was a game that used to have kind of swag. Look, no one has mentioned this game to me in years. I don't know if people still care about it. It's still $600 for some reason, but yeah, it's survival horror. It's always in the back of my mind because I'm like, oh yeah, I want more Halloween games, and if I can get them from different regions and stuff that didn't come out here, cool. The question is always, do I want to just pay $30 for a Japanese one, or if I, for some reason, want to play it in English, should I cough up and get the actually collector cool version for $600? But again, that's a little bit hard to recommend. $600 games, that's a big leap. So that's it for my extra picks. And then I just want to tell everyone, as the bonus from Tyler and I, Tri-Rush, Deppy, or DP, I'm not sure, but this game, I have not played this game.
I'm sorry, just everyone is just like, what? Did he just say words there? The video game we're talking about is Tri-Rush, one word, Deppy, other word.
Yeah. What a delightful game. Go watch gameplay footage of this game. So cool. It is expensive. It's like a $300 game, unfortunately. I think it's universally like on import lists if you try to look it up. But it is just a delightful, fun-looking game. It's like if a car was anthropomorphized, kind of, and made into a platformer, and then also kind of Sonic. It's real weird. Go look at a video of that. And if you don't smile a little bit while watching that, you're dead inside. I'm sorry.
So I've never played Tri-Rush. It just has like an amazing aesthetic to it, and I don't know how much of that is the reason it's a $300 game. Because you are an adorable little chibi car. And then it looks kind of like Sonic Rush. Do people remember Sonic Rush? Is that a weird reference? It's very Sonic the Hedgehog, but you have like a little boost thing. All right. Anyway, you can go buy that for $300 if you're out of your mind.
Yeah. Yep, and it also has like a Mega Man aesthetic to like the bosses. It's like Sonic and Mega Man and a platform. Go look at it. Just go look at it.
Man, I wouldn't recognize this on someone's shelf as like, oh yeah, Tri-Rush Deppy, but you buy this, there's like two people who are definitely like, oh my god, he's the guy. He spent the money on it. The
box art is not particularly compelling either. Just so you know, if you look at the box, you're like, whatever. But if you watch gameplay of it, you're like, holy shit, what is this? Yeah, go check it out.
All right.
Also, I think the back looks like an American flag or something. It's pretty funny.
Johnny, as we creep up on 5 a.m., are we done talking about the top?
We are
first Saturn games to collect.
We are 100% done with that. Nothing more to say. I think we can skip a collector's question this episode and try and get you out of here, Tyler.
No.
Tyler. No, you're doing it?
I'm going to continue a joke from the episode we scrapped, Johnny. Joe is driving his truck to Las Vegas or something, and we got to entertain Joe while he's out there taking our goods out on the road for us, because we really appreciate it.
Okay.
I'm getting
I mean, does he haul our goods? Let's not talk too much about Joe's personal life, but yeah. Joe is just going to be the person we always call out as our mythical audience person.
You threw out the name. I thought you were just throwing out a common name. I'm not talking about Joe. I'm talking about the Joe trucker that we invented.
Oh,
the average Joe. We're talking about
average Joe. All right, cool.
I'm sorry if we have a trucker named Joe and we just called you average listening to this podcast. All right.
It's fine. I get called all kinds of dumb things because of my name.
Johnny, we have a question from Joe, actually.
Oh, okay.
The Fleo. As I watch my eldest nephews and nieces approach their preteen years, I notice on both sides they don't play traditional AAA games. Even the most hardcore gamers of the lot are into indie co-op games like Rust, Ark, etc. Do you have similar observations? If so, what do you think this means for the future of AAA gaming? Are AAA games for boomers?
I don't know because I'm not around anyone who plays those games. I have observed my friend's daughter, who's 9-ish, and she plays like dumb iPad games. But she also does play some AAA games. It's like not hardcore adult AAA games. It's hard for me to parse this a little bit because the games that are made for like kids, I'm not buying those, so I wouldn't be observing those. She loves Kirby. My son loved Kirby, so like they both bought those. Are those considered AAA games? Are we talking about Tears of the Kingdom and like Jedi Survivor and the last Resident Evil? Like, no, I don't observe too many younger kids buying those, but also they're kind of expensive and not made specifically for them.
I think Tears of the Kingdom sold in the first weekend as much as The Legend of Zelda sold in its entire lifespan.
Yeah. It was, and then Jedi Survivor sold a ton. So, like, if it's just the boomers buying all these games, they're buying a lot of them.
I mean, the boomers are buying a lot, and us being boomers. I'm looking up the best-selling games of 2022. It's Call of Duty, Elden Ring, Madden, God of War, Lego Star Wars, Pokemon, FIFA, Pokemon again, Horizon, and MLB. So, I mean, I don't know what the future of AAA gaming is. Everyone complains about it, but people keep buying them. Like, I'm sure everyone complained about Call of Duty for some bullshit, but it was the best-selling game last year. So as people are still buying them, they're going to keep spending $1 billion to make them. I don't know how else to respond to this, Johnny. Indie games are rad. It is weird that I don't like that like medium budget games are getting squeezed out by like these it's like kind of Hollywood where like they're spending $500 million to make the next GTA game. I'm sure they're spending $1 billion to make the next GTA game because they know they'll make it back when they turn it into the most egregious live service with microtransactions.
Well, I mean, I think you need games like that still to prop up the company so they can afford to take risks on other things. So, anyways, any more questions, or are we done with questions and moving on to buying and playing?
Zeno asks, are there any kiosks, cabinets, signs, or display items you guys think are cool or would like to own? Follow-up question, when do you think After Dark will come to SoundCloud? Zeno, I got to do something for you with After Dark.
We just got to make a playlist, make it private, and send them a link.
I think that's what we'll do. Johnny, kiosks, I'm so out on kiosks. Have I ever owned a kiosk? I feel like I've owned a kiosk and I don't remember what it was, but man, kiosks are just the worst because like that it is a quote unquote shelf collectible in that you'll never play it, but it takes up so much room. And for that room, I'd rather own an arcade machine, and rather than an arcade machine, I'd rather own a pinball machine. So it just takes up too much room. And it's ridiculous. Like to think that I would ever like stand up in front of a Sega Dreamcast and like play a Sega Dreamcast standing up and be like, oh, I'll play it on my kiosk. Like that would never, ever happen. I would never do that. And I'm never going to keep it on either. So it's just like, it would just be sitting in the corner off. Now I turn it on for an Instagram picture.
Yeah, I don't, you know me, Tyler. I'm out on these things. I'm out 100%.
I would love a World of Nintendo cabinet. They're too expensive. And then signs and display stuff. I don't have the place to display it, and they're also too expensive. It's just not something I've ever been into. I have a few of those like vinyl banners. I have a couple Game Boy Color ones of all things. But that's really it for my signs.
And that's not like something I'm into at all. I dislike those. I dislike all that stuff. You know, like the coolest display to me is like an amiibo, which I know sounds really stupid. But I'm just not into displays or cabinets or signage in general. It does nothing for me.
We have too many games to possibly make it look nice by adding a few signs to it. It's just always a pile of garbage, Johnny. We'll never be as cool as Dennis or Stefan or The Last Gamer. I don't even know if The Last Gamer collects signs. We have the most boring answer.
You're right.
That we just don't like that stuff. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Johnny, what are you buying? What are you playing?
That's just how we are. What am I buying and what am I playing? Hey, Tyler. I am playing Jedi Survivor. That's what I'm still playing. No, I've not got to Tears of the Kingdom. People keep asking me. The answer is, unfortunately, still no. What have I bought? What did I buy? Hey, there was a game shown to me. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's Disney Princess's Girlfriends, and it comes with some nail polish.
What, you found it?
I think so. It has not come yet, but I did send out a flyer. The guy said it has the nail polish. He's pretty sure. So, yeah, a dude told me about this, and I did buy it.
So, let's recap for the listeners. This is Disney Princess's Girlfriends for the PC, which comes with a bundled bottle of nail polish. It's a game for little girls.
Yep, it totally is. And I just thought it was hilarious that it had nail polish as a pack-in. I was shown it by Dan Gomez. He's like, make sure this is on your list. And I'm like, I'm going to do one better than that, especially because it was $10. So I'm not taking a huge risk out here. I think I already told you about my weird Jedi Fallen Order pack-in, and I bought, hey, Bird Dog, thanks for letting me know about the good price on the new Ghostbusters Special Edition for the PS5, which is shaped like a book, like Tobin's Spirit Guide, so that's cool. I bought that for the Halloween collection. Yeah, that's it. That's what I bought, and that's what I played. Tyler, what about you?
I know I started Tears of the Kingdom, but I've been playing just Elastomania, which is the game from 2000. It's a trial bike racing PC game. I love that game, Johnny.
I know you do.
Buying. It's only been a few days since we last recorded. I got Hyankyo Alien. I got another variant of it for the PC 8001. I think there are at least 3 variants, and I don't know anything about them, so I just want all of them. And then, Johnny, I got Dragon Lair, also for the PC 8001. Dragon Lair, not Dragon's Lair.
Not Dragon's Lair. Dragon Lair.
This game was developed in 1982. In between, so like 1981 is like Wizardry and Ultima, and then 1983 is like really the dawn of the JRPG. And then in late 1982, this game Dragon Lair, it's like Temple of Apshai, or maybe, if you know, it's like House of Usher on Atari. And I'm sorry if you don't know what these games are. But it's sort of a adventure-ish RPG type game using like blobs. They're like circles because it's a shitty old computer game. But the interesting part about this game is that, one, if you considered it an RPG, it's like in the conversation for first JRPG ever. But 2, it was developed by 2 Californian people and released in Japan. So it is potentially a JRPG, but it wasn't developed by the Japanese, it's just a really weird thing. It's a really weird story to me. The second reason I like this game is that if it is a part of history, like it would be an interesting part of history if anyone relevant in the JRPG industry said they had ever played it, because all the JRPG people, they cite games, like Ultima, Wizardry, Hydlide, they all like cite those games as like, games that inspired them to make whatever the great JRPGs we know today are. No one has ever like referenced that they've ever played this game. So it could be some part of history, but it absolutely isn't. And I kind of love that. Johnny spent $70 on that game. No one has ever heard of it.
Are you sure?
I really, really want House of Usher, Johnny.
I do too, Tyler.
Just because it's a cool fucking name.
I mean, also an Edgar Allan Poe story.
Yeah. Well, I don't want the book. I want the game. I just want House of Usher. Johnny, we'll end the show. It's 5. I'm losing my mind. I can't believe how long we've been recording. It's 5. We're going into 5 hours. If you guys think like, man, he really sounds like he's fading here. Yeah, I've been here for 5 hours. And then I'm going to have to edit this. Like, it's going down. Like, this is it. Johnny, just end it quick before I fall apart and we have to scrap the show.
I would have ended it already.
Ah!
Stop talking. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the show. That's all we have time for. You can't find Tyler on social media, so we won't go there. And I'm barely on Instagram. You can find me at Johnny_Iucci. If the best place to talk to us is our Discord, which you get access through by being a patron. All right. Thanks for listening. Hey, Tyler, thanks for surviving this long, stupid thing we did tonight. Listeners, hope you kind of enjoyed it, even though Tyler hates the Sega Saturn now. I think he's just grumpy because he's tired. Anyways, bye!